Am I the asshole for not punishing my child after he corrected the teacher? My 10-year-old son had to watch some Snoopy cartoon in class during which Woodstock eats a roast turkey. The teacher told the class that this is fictional, and that birds don't eat other birds. My son corrected her and said something along the lines of, "My uncle trains falcons to hunt other birds at the airport to protect the airplanes." The teacher got upset, said he was disrespectful, and talking back, and sent him to the principal's office. I got called and they explained HTE situation, that he corrected the teacher. I said, "Well, was he right?" And the principal said, "It doesn't matter. This was rude and you need to teach your son show some respect to authority." And I told the principal, "I'm not going to punish my son or make him apologize if he was right. Maybe your teacher should be better educated." The principal looked a bit shocked and just told me to leave. Fine by me. Really reconsidering this school. Respect authority. They revealed their true agenda. Not education, obedience. Not the asshole. I saw someone online say before, sometimes people use respect to mean treating someone like a person, and sometimes they use respect to mean treating someone like an authority. And sometimes people who are used to being treated like an authority say, "If you won't respect me, I won't respect you," and they mean, "If you won't treat me like an authority, I won't treat you like a person," and they think they're being fair but they aren't, and it's not okay. From you, Kaikoku01. I'd pull your kid if I were you. The fish rots from the head. Info. Your son is 100% correct, but if he said this in a disrespectful manner, tone, volume, eye roll, etc., then that needs to be corrected. And #X200B. Edit. It's amazing what my simple and general reply has caused below, with people making many assumptions and accusations in multiple directions. Edit. Not the asshole. It's good for children to challenge authority also. A teacher should be okay with being corrected. Call it a teaching moment. Emo, your child did absolutely nothing wrong. Not the asshole. Education should not be about teaching children to mindlessly defer to authority without question. Your son was correct and the teacher should have just accepted that. I mean, who doesn't know that birds eat other birds? School is as much about learning how to interact with people as it is about learning facts. I got in trouble at school because my teacher said the moon was bigger than the earth and I said it wasn't. Imagine being so insecure as an adult that you have to punish a child for correcting you. Not the asshole. Your son was right that his teacher completely forgot about predatory birds. Although it can be annoying and even disrespectful for someone to be an interrupting smartass, your kid is 10, and no teacher should be threatened by being fact-checked by a 10-year-old. If anything, they should be praised for sharing their knowledge. The teacher could have just said, "You're right, predatory birds and carrion birds like falcons and vultures do eat other birds, but woodstock is probably a canary and not a predatory bird. Songbirds like canaries eat bugs, berries, and seeds." Just give a mini ornithology lesson and move on without your ego being bruised by a 4th grader. Not the asshole. That's how you raise a child. Okay, hand medium skin tone adults are wrong. Question everything that doesn't make sense and speak up. We've been conditioned to stay quiet in front of authority figures. Not the asshole. As a fellow teacher, unless a student's tone or attitude is way out of line, your son isn't an asshole for correcting them if they are completely wrong. We can correct students when wrong, so why can't they do the same? Not the asshole. And #X200B. Teacher gave incorrect information. Child corrected teacher. Teach threw a hissy fit. And #X200B. I'd be asking the school what efforts they will be taking to discipline the teacher for overreacting and better train them how to respond, and to increase their knowledge of wildlife. And #X200B. And #X200B. And #X200B. Also, can we crowdfund a plain-toed banner going round the school a few times the explicitly point out this teacher being wrong and provide a correction? Info. And you may not get a straight answer to this, but how did he say it? If he shouted it out at her like, "No, you're wrong," then I could understand her feeling disrespected. However, if he raised his hand and told her about his uncle, then she should have been respectful back and admitted her mistake. Not the asshole. The number of times I've seen stories like this about people being punished by teachers for lack of respect, when they correct false information is staggering and has led me to believe that the main purpose of American schooling is not to teach facts but to instill unquestioning obedience to those in authority. You were right in what you said to the principal and your son is right in correcting the teacher. Also, if the principal's reaction to you not punishing your son because you were asked to is surprise, yes, reconsider the school and find one not run by a control freak. Info: was your son rude? Or did he just state that his uncle trains falcons? Because if it's the latter, then this teacher is out of their mind. Sure, adults and especially teachers know more than kids for the most part, but that doesn't mean you can just shut down a kid who speaks their mind. There's nothing wrong with talking back to a teacher as long as you're not disrespectful. And just saying that it's disrespectful simply because the kid talked back to the teacher in the first place is so stupid. I don't think you did anything wrong. This principal is very condescending, it seems. IDK, as I said, info. Sounds like this is written by the son. Also carnivorous, there are owls and eagles and penguins. Buzzards would particularly be fond of a roast turkey since they usually go after dead things, lol. Yay, it sucks to be told you are wrong by a little kid. But if you are wrong, and even a little kid knows it, then you should be corrected and be an adult about it instead of making this a big deal and making yourself looking like a bad sport and ignorant. Not the asshole. See if you can't get the kid transferred to a different teacher if the teacher doesn't get over their hurt fifis. Not the asshole. In fact, punishing him is what would send the wrong message, i.e. never challenge authority even if it's wrong. My answer assumes your kid was polite to the teacher and simply corrected her as point of fact. Not the asshole for not punishing your child, but he, and you, need to understand that there is a difference between offering information to illuminate a subject versus rudely correcting someone. If he said, "Teacher, you're wrong," and then said the line about his uncle, then the beginning part was rude. If he raised his hand politely and said, "Teacher, yes, most of the little birds we see eat seeds or insects and not other birds, but bigger birds such as falcons do hunt smaller birds and I know this because my uncle, etc." then I think that should be considered a fair contribution to the classroom conversation that expands everyone's knowledge. The difference is in how he said it. And that is a very important difference to learn. Not the asshole. I'm sure it was embarrassing for the teacher to be called out like that, but the idea that students should accept anything a teacher says at face value even if they know it's wrong in order to demonstrate proper respect for authority, is idiotic. It's a transparent attempt to scapegoat your kid to save face. Not the asshole. Fun fact though, it's only going to get worse. Not the asshole. This is the kind of attitude where adults think kids should fall into line at any cost, instead of having real discussions. I imagine this blew up because the teacher became embarrassed at being shown up. The easy solution for them would be laugh and admit this is a situation with birds that might break the rule, and is quite rare. Not hard, but a lot of people treat kids like little subordinates instead of people they're interacting with and educating. Info: was your son rude? It's one thing to correct someone, but you can definitely do it in a disrespectful and rude manner. From the info it sounds like not the asshole, but to be sure I would need more info on what your son said, and his demeanor to come to a solid conclusion. Not the asshole. The school is just mad your son is smarter than a teacher. Also, it's a cartoon. Shaggy and Scooby eat sandwiches that are 10 female tall in one bite. Also, the Roadrunner is faster than the coyote, yet it's the opposite in real life, not to mention the coyote builds traps to try and catch the Roadrunner. Not the asshole. I can't stand people who believe you should follow every word they say just because they're older and hold authority. Your son was in the right by correcting her. Not the asshole as long as your child just stated the facts. This is not disrespectful. The teacher's pride was injured and they lashed out at your child. This is unprofessional and worrying in someone who works with children. Also sounds like the principal is a demands respect not earn it type. Reconsidering this school sounds like a good option. Not the asshole. Only a bad teacher would get angry at being corrected. Not the asshole. You are a great parent and not punishing your child when the teacher was clearly wrong. They do not have a good mindset that children should believe what all adults say is correct. NTA, I've seen this happen all the time in my classes growing up. I'd understand maybe being upset if he just blurted it out at random and interrupted or something, but it seems like they're more upset that he was right, which is stupid. Clearly this teacher doesn't actually care about the education of their students. Not the asshole if he was respectfully telling her a fact and she got offended, embarrassed for being wrong. Nothing wrong with speaking up, especially in school where students are often told to shush and listen to the teacher. This could have been a quick learning opportunity if the teacher took it in stride. However, if the problem was him being rude, that has to be acknowledged. Not the asshole. I hate the idea that children are supposed to act like adults are right all the time. It's not healthy. It blew my son's mind when I told him no adult is right all the time. Not the asshole, though if your son used a rude tone or interrupted, I'd change my mind. If he was just politely providing information, definitely not the asshole. Kids should be able to share facts they know on a subject without it being a challenge to authority. And it was a dumb assertion on her part. There are plenty of birds that eat other birds, even if it's more commonly chicks. I was this kid, and being shut down just because I had a few subjects I knew a lot about really created some issues with pursuing hobbies and sharing them with others, not to mention participating in class, which I know teachers complain about all the time. Not the asshole. Well done, your son. The teacher should have said yes, of course I wasn't considering that. The head teacher should reflect on whether he wants to turn out well-balanced young people who speak up whne they are right or young people who are too afraid to speak for themselves. Not the asshole. You're teaching your kid that his voice matters. Not the asshole. You're the parent, it's up to you. Besides, it's not like what he said is wrong, or was that bad in a mouthing off way, especially given his age. As long as your child was respectful, I say not the asshole. If you know your kid can be a little mouthy or a smarty pants, you might need to have a talk about how to appropriately respond to these situations. Not the asshole. Don't fuck with the truth. Don't fuck with nature. Fuck that school. Your child and every child deserves better than that. That teacher is corny. There is no valuable reason to tell children birds don't eat birds. Perhaps they don't make sandwiches, but they sure as fuck eat birds. Your child needs to be protected. I would love to hear more about the training of falcons and the super cool relationship one must have with an animal in order to employ it to help keep airplanes and therefore people safe. Even more valuable information. Info. How did your son correct her? Does your son have a history of behavioral issues in the class? Did he interrupt her? Asking because I was the type of kid to say this stuff, but I also made noises in class, spoke over the teacher, and was generally bothersome, so these types of comments weren't in good faith. Op handled it poorly. They went in with attitude, didn't like what was said, and walked out. You are putting your child in this school where they will spend most of their waking hours, and that doesn't warrant an actual conversation? At minimum, Op owes it to her kid to have a conversation about it and explain what is expected of them at school. To just walk out and thereby inferring that the adults are wrong and the kid is right no matter what isn't good for anyone. And if you change schools because of this, it's an even bigger signal that the kid can do no wrong and that mommy and daddy will always fix it. Not exactly a great life lesson. Not the asshole. Are we in the 1900s? SMH. How old is the teacher? I encourage my learners to correct me when I make a mistake. No one is infallible, and children should be taught to question and not accept something they know not to be true. Not the asshole, but you might become the asshole if this persists and you don't move your kid to a better school. Joke about you being the asshole, but genuinely something to consider. That is some serious bullshit from the principal there. Genuinely, kudos for your response. Not the asshole, and good for you for standing up for him. Not the asshole. If the teacher was smart, this could have been a teachable moment about how nobody knows everything and we can always learn from each other. Let's look it up together, kids. They could have also saved face by expanding the discussion and explaining that woodstock is not a predatory bird, but let's discuss the difference between the two. But as your 10-year-old already proved, this teacher is not smart. Teaching kids to never question authority figures sets those kids up for messed up situations all throughout their lives. You did the right thing. Info. I do believe that the way it was said makes a lot of difference. If he was disrespectful, he does need to apologize. But if not, the teacher just got offended for no reason, then yeah, you need to think about his future in a school which teaches obedience. Not the asshole. The teacher and the principal missed an opportunity to make this into a teachable moment for the class. People make mistakes. Adults make mistakes. Teachers make mistakes. When we make a mistake, rather than doubling down, acknowledge the mistake, apologize, and accept the new information. Explain why the new information changes your mind. First-hand experience, peer-reviewed, reliable source, etc. Kids need to be taught that it's okay to accept new information, it's okay to be wrong, and it's okay to apologize. It's how we grow in intellect and in character. The hook here about falcons at the airport seems hard to make up, but the premise that your son would go to the principal's office over this and that they would call you in is impossible to believe. Not the asshole and give that kid a cookie. ETA. Why is this getting downvoted? Hilarious. I was congratulating the child and the parent. Not the asshole, but perhaps there was a learning opportunity here for the school. If you'd asked what in future your son should do if wanting to share his lived experience with the class, the principal might have reflected on the impossible situation the teacher put your kid in. There could have been a discussion around birds of prey and how Woodstock wasn't one rather than a teacher who couldn't handle his own ineptness. This happened to me in 6th grade. The teacher referred to the Netherlands as Holland and I told him that was like calling the United States Massachusetts. I wasn't sent to the principal though. My parents were deaf-called. It sucks that the main ethos in most schools is sit down and shut up, and the realm of knowledge outside the teacher's knowledge isn't welcomed. It's dumb. I wish class sizes were smaller. I wish teachers were paid more. I wish there were more resources. As for judgment, NTA op, your comeback had me laughing. Also, the uncle sounds cool. And thanks to your son, his class now knows falcon training is not just a hobby, but a profession, too. Not the asshole. I teach kids, and they correct me all the time. Usually I say, oh my gosh, you're right. Let's try that again. Even teachers can make mistakes. If they're rude about it, which is really rare, I might add an, it's okay to make mistakes, that's how we learn. We never want to put someone down for learning, right? Not the asshole. I would be pulling him out of the school immediately. Power-tripping teachers and principals can be much worse than any bullying can ever be. Birds don't eat other birds and this person is a teacher? Oh dear. I'd be reconsidering the school as well. Blindly following authority without questioning nonsense isn't how I'd want my daughter taught. Sounds like the school has authority issues.